Go.
Hi, okay, my name is James Baker, and this is Robbie Martino, and we are from Professional Independent Locators. We also own a business called Legal Recovery Bureau. The two are related to each other, but they do very different things. But both things that they do are extremely relevant to you and your industry, which is the real estate rental market. I want to start out first of all by talking about Professional Independent Locators and what we do there. Basically in 1989 I had a falling out with the church I was working at as an ordained minister. And I had studied in seminary and had been ordained and went through the whole process and got placed in a church. And it didn't work out between us. And, you know, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but if you get that type of a seminary education, it's not very marketable in the job industry. People don't really care if you know Greek and Hebrew. So I was realizing that I needed to find a new career path, and I opened up the Denver Post in Denver, Colorado. And there was an ad in the classifieds which said simply, "If you have a pulse, I'll hire you." I was like, oh, that sounds good. That's what I need. I have a pulse, so I called the number, and I still remember it. It was 303-623-3636. I dialed that number, and the first thing I heard was, "Consolidated Collection Company, can I help you?" And I was like, I have a pulse, and I'm responding to your ad. And they said, well, come on in for an interview. We have interviews today at 1, at 3, and at 5. So you can come anytime. I don't need an appointment. Nope. Just show up at 1 or at 3 or at 5. I was like, okay. And so I showed up, and about a day later, I was put on the floor of a boiler room collection agency. There were 200 of us, 200 collectors. And I was assigned to collect public service and U.S. West bills. Public service is utilities, electric, gas, and we all know what U.S. West is. That's the phone company. It used to be Ma Bell before it was U.S. West. And I want to tell you that when they sat me down at my little cubicle in that boiler room, there wasn't something there that you would think would be there. Does anybody know what that might be? That's right, a computer. We didn't have, there was no computers in collections back then. There were hard copy files and a phone, and the phone was rotary dial.
Okay, now you're dating yourself.
They had old phones. We got touch tone phones in eventually, but Tom Jacobs, the owner of Consolidated, you know, he was a wonderful Jewish man who saved every nickel and was rich because of it, but he had like old telephones there. And then up against the wall in the middle of this boiler room was a payphone. And I always wondered what that payphone was for. And as I got trained in collections, I also got trained in another art, which I still use today, and that is the art of skip tracing. Because in order to collect money from people, you have to find them. You have to be able to make contact with them. You have to be able to either call them or speak with them in person. And so what I learned later about that phone that was on the wall was that it was there because back in those days, you could call information for free. You could just dial 411 on any payphone.
Wow.
Back then. You know, they don't have that service anymore, but if you dialed 411 from your landline telephone number in the office, I think you got 2 or 3 for free, and then after that they started charging you. So Tom Jacobs figured out, well, you know what, let's just get a payphone and put it right here. And there would be lines of collectors every day waiting for the payphone and their little list that they had to go through and they had to check. And so, you know, I learned the art of what I call old school skip tracing back in those days, because we didn't have the internet. We didn't have Google search or any of the billions of search engines that you can go to now, Spokio, reverse phone directory, I don't know, there's so many of them now. I want to tell you a secret about the myriads of these websites, the thousands of websites that you can use on the internet to skip trace, let me tell you a secret. They're all drawing from the same pool of information. There should be just one website for skip tracing, because these guys are resellers of information, basically. And if you want to get a great database, and you want to be sure that you have the best one that everybody else buys their information from, my advice to you is to get LexisNexis or Accurate. Get Accurate, okay? That's the best possible data source that you're going to get. But all of these other little guys that are on the internet, they buy from LexisNexis. They buy information that is 6 months to 2 years old. And you're like, wow, I'm going to reverse this guy's phone number, and you might do that in Spokeo, and it gives you like an instant address, and you're like, wow, that's great. Well, the bad news is it's probably 2 or 3 years old. So, because they simply buy that information from Accurate or LexisNexis and resell it. But I learned how to skip trace in the old school manner, and I learned a very important lesson, that in order to find people, you have to actually talk to people. You're not going to find people on the computer a lot of times. People are going to tell you where people are. And that's because even in this fast-paced world of technology, they can't keep up fast enough in the ever-changing lives of your skips, am I right? I mean, there's no way that these databases are going to know that Tony, who was renting from you last week, is now living in his sister-in-law's trailer. Okay, there's no way they're going to know that. You need the assistance of somebody who can use whatever data is out there to get to the people who are going to get you to the person that you're looking for. That is what you need. And that's the service that we provide in skip tracing. What is it that you would need skip tracing for? Well, as I see it in your industry, you probably need it from a pre-legal standpoint as well as a post-legal standpoint. By pre-legal, you know, after you've, let's just say that you're written to Billy and Jenny, and you've been written to them for 3 months, and they've paid for 1.5, and you know, promised that you know, Billy's probably called you and said that he'll trade you, you know, his 1976 Chevy for a month in rent, or whatever they're trying to negotiate. But it's time for them to go. They know it's time for them to go. You've told them you're going to start the eviction process. Maybe you've even served a 3-day notice on them. And what happens? What happens? You go by their house and what? Everything's gone.
Well, not everything.
Not everything.
Everything.
The people and the good stuff are gone.
Everything but the garbage and the old clothes are gone. And so, you know, you need to be able to find these people so that you can sue them and get a judgment from the court for the money that they owe you. We provide that service. We find people on a for pre-legal matters before you sue. We also provide the service of serving the papers on them after we find them. And I'm going to get more into detail with that later. But the other environment that you would need a skip tracer for would be in the post-judgment or post-legal game. You've already evicted them. You already have a money judgment for $5,000 against these squatters who stayed in your house for a long time. And you've got a judge actually said, yes, these people owe you $500. How many people have had to sue people in that manner and have gotten a judgment?
Oh, never.
How many of those judgments have paid off for you?
One.
Did you stop by the kiosk at the court which says how to make these judgments turn these judgments into money for you? Did you stop by that kiosk?
Do they have one?
Didn't need to, they just told us
They actually have one.
Right. See, this is the funny, the amazing thing to me about our legal system. Okay, you take someone to small claims court because You wanna do it yourself and you don't wanna hire an attorney. You wanna sue them yourself and you don't